Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with asnews.net and the Kiteboarder magazine, and this is show number 153. Today we have two very cool guests on the show. We have Tony Lagos, shaper, designer for Slingshot, and we also have John Omohundro, who is the shaper behind Aviso surfboards. So their Slingshot and Aviso surfboards are working together, and we brought them here on the show so that you could just talk straight to them and ask them any questions that you want. So, Tony, we know a lot about you, but John, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your background?
Yeah, my name's John Omohundro, and I'm the owner and founder of Aviso surfboards. And what we make is we take a shape, for instance, like Tony Lagos' shape, and we'll take a master pattern with no fins on it or anything, and we'll make a tool off that. So we have a tooled surface, and we reproduce that shape in our technology, which is carbon fiber, and it's hollow. So it's made of a couple components, carbon fiber being one of them, epoxy resin, and high temperature, high density PVC foam, which creates the sandwich for the deck and the bottom. And that's what we do. There's all kinds of advantages that I think we'll talk about to why we make the boards like that, but that's basically what we do.
You know, I'm going to read these notes real quick because they're kind of cool, and they're put together by my publisher, Marina. But it says, Aviso Surfboard specializes in composite engineering techniques to manufacture hollow carbon fiber surfboards. The materials and methods are used predominantly are in the aerospace and defense industry, where the design and manufacture of structures must be lightweight, strong, and have ideal flex characteristics to withstand intense physical force. Now Aviso has partnered with Slingshot Sports to introduce 7 new carbon fiber surfboards designed and constructed especially for kite surfers. So that kind of sums it up. I've been seeing a lot of these boards, just different ideas off of these carbon fiber type of boards in the last year, and sounds like you guys are really taking it to another level. And why don't you talk about that?
Well, I think what you mean though is what we're trying to do is provide basically a Ferrari of boards here. You know, it's not only looks cool, but we want it to have two things. We want it to perform properly and hopefully at a super high level and be really durable. So we've been working for over 2 years to try to make that happen. You know, I thought it was going to be really easy since we were already making boards, but with Tony's background and his testing and under Kite's power, and we're doing all kinds of iterations to make the boards better and stronger and still maintain the favorable flex qualities that the surfers like, so that you could actually surf the same board that you buy for kiting. But we made a lot of different changes. The rails are a little bit stronger, the deck's a little bit stronger, and probably the most notable thing, which Tony just came up with, was to go ahead and put a track in, a system on the deck where you could adjust your foot straps easily and precisely. So what we did was get rid of the inserts in the deck, which was kind of we made a lot of boards with inserts, but the success we had there it wasn't perfect. And I think what Tony came up with using one of our processes was I think it's going to make the board really unique.
Hey Ryan, can you see this board right here?
I can see the one behind you.
So we can put it right there. Now you can see it.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I have not seen many of these in kiteboarding. I love to surf and I watch the surfing industry. I've seen this style of board become popular with people who don't kiteboard, and now I'm seeing the kite surfers start to mess with this technology. And what you just talked about that track, I mean, that's really cool. That's the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm actually checking it out right now. You can see it in the background right there. Why don't you explain it a little bit and show everybody kind of how it works?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well,
we'll do that. We can grab this one.
I mean, that is a huge advancement right there, just to be able to move your feet around. Because in surfing, I know myself, I don't always just stand in the same place.
So yeah, if you look at it, what's nice about it is John's going to go run and grab us a tool real quick. We weren't really thinking about giving you a demo, but we might as well give you a little demo with it. What's kind of nice is you can take this strap off completely, if you want to go strapless, you can take it off in just minutes. You know, if you have a little T-wrench or, you know, John just grabbed a crescent wrench. We'll just do a quick demo of like how it goes on, how it goes off. Yeah. That'd be good on video. Good thing.
You guys, this is like total. Oh, I bet that board didn't even. That was the camera. No, I bet that board didn't even ding. That just fell.
Yeah, that's what. This board just bounced off the camera equipment and then some lighting and stuff, but it didn't even get scratched. So I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to sell is, you know, the board's still going to be the same, you know, 2 years from now as it is today.
Hey, is that a Cole surfboard right there?
Yeah, it is.
I know Cole.
Firefly.
Cole sponsored our.
Backtail quad.
He sponsored our college surf team, and he's a really cool dude. Like, I know Cole personally. He's a great guy.
He is a very cool dude.
Yeah. That's what's kind of nice is John has a bunch of different shapers. We kind of hand-picked a bunch of boards for the kite line. Like Fireflies are one of those 3 different sizes, and we also have Doc Lausch, and this one's a Moonshine, and yeah, so it's kind of cool.
That board looks badass. I mean, it just all together with. I mean, usually the black boards they're kind of boring, but that one looks pretty cool.
All right, so if you see this right here, Ryan, can you see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I just loosened it up, and that's taking it off. And you can see how it's got the little 2 plates.
That's so sick. Can you just wax up around it, right?
It's on, and tighten it back down. So it's on and off pretty quick. And then you can put, you know, everybody has their own preference of exactly where you want to stand or how wide your strap's going to be. So now you can spread the strap out. You can move it exactly where you want it to be. Same with the back strap. You know, you can run it all the way back to the tail. You can run it further forward. And if you want to go strapless riding, you know, the easy is pulling it right off. So,
that's unreal.
There's your demo with putting it on and off pretty fast, and then
push it up just a little bit because okay. There we go. There was an ad in front of it. We do this free, so we gotta deal with the ads. But yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, so back out.
Now with that, do you? I mean, I'm sure people are wondering. You just wax it up, right?
Yeah, this one we've been riding. So you know, this is one we've been. This is a little 5/4 Solaritas. So it's a fun board. We've been riding it, so it's got a little wax on it. But
how it comes from Slingshot though, it's got a front pad that matches the back pad. It's kind of the white and green and black, and the strap obviously goes on top of the pad. They're kind of hooked together. But this is Tony's preference to just ride with no pad.
Tony is a soul man.
I don't know about that. But
Hey Tony, actually there's a shout coming in from the lounge that says that it looks like he just woke up.
Yeah. I've been up for a while actually. It looks like I just need to go back to sleep, I think is what he meant.
That's his mad scientist look. You know, we got a lot of questions here. Another question is, will this be available on the 2010 boards?
Oh yes, it'll be available probably
early July is what we're shooting for. Right now, they're just going to be the first couple boards. All the first articles from the new construction are going to be out, you know, in the water this week and next week, and they're going to be available, I think, through Slingshot.com, slingshotsports.com, beginning of July.
Well, you know, what inspired the relationship between you guys?
Well, it's pretty funny. Is Ryan, you kind of know my windsurfing background and stuff, and back in the 80s I built a lot of hollow construction boards for, you know, from early 80s through mid 80s, you know, just building a lot of hollow boards. And I was at the trade show and just walked by John's booth, you know, a few years ago and ran into him, and I was checking out his boards, and I was going, wow, this is really kind of pretty nice, and he's actually doing it right. And we kind of started talking, and, you know, one composite guy to another composite guy, we became friends, and kind of started working out problems. And I said, hey, you should check out kiteboarding. And he was took him a while to kind of get him to kind of, he's a surfer, and like basically
they're stubborn.
talking him into getting on a kite, and finally that's all kind of coming through, and we just started working on projects, and we thought it'd be pretty easy to get it right into kite, but when we found out that we were a little bit different in surfing, as far as getting them to hold up. And now, so it's been a 2-year project, and now we're finally pretty happy with where they're at. And because they're expensive, so if you get the board, you want them to last, and that's the whole concept with this board is to, you pay more, but you're gonna have a board that's you're gonna be able to ride for years, and that's kind of our goal.
Well, you mentioned something that, surfers, I grew up in Southern California, and one of my best friends is, I'm not even going to mention his name, but he's one of the top guys in the world, and he was not pretentious or anything, and he made a career of surfing, but to this day, it's like I can go home and talk about kiteboarding, and, it's just like, yeah, cool, whatever. And then it's funny when someone embraces it who's a surfer, and they get the buzz, and they get the feel, and they get that the bug to kiteboard. And it's amazing, just to see how their perception of it when they see guys like Ben Wilson or some of the other guys doing what they're doing changes, like right away. And so I think it's awesome. But this leads into the question: what attracted a surf company to partner with a kiteboarding company?
Well, just after Tony came and checked us out at the trade show and we were talking about composite boards and everything he'd done in the past. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, whatever, kites, I know nothing about them. It didn't seem cool to me at the time at all. And then Tony started telling me about all the different boards he could ride. You could ride basically a McDonald's tray, he said. And so I'm kind of going, what? I was getting intrigued. And then he was telling me about all these spots that he's got here, secret spots in Oregon where you could do 1,000 off the lips. And now I come to find out he actually meant, 1,000 off the lips. So I thought, this is trick. I want to figure it out. So he gave me a trainer kite. And since then, I've kind of got into it. And the most amazing thing about it is, now that I've been working with Tony for a couple years, is that the learning curve, on when we're working on new designs and in construction, it's so advanced compared to surfing, because you're not waiting around for swell. You're not, it's never the same in surfing. So it's hard to test a board or test a construction to get it refined. Where the learning curve that Tony goes through to get the boards dialed in for me and let me know what's going on, it takes a couple days rather than months, because you can go out, you can put miles on the boards, and that's just, surfers don't think in those terms, but I think, as this starts to catch on, they're going to see that there's so many advantages to, having that kite power drag you around and testing. I've just seen it firsthand how quickly he's advanced the learning curve for everything we're doing, from shape, seeing what boards work good and what the concaves are doing, how the boards are flexing, to will they hold up, because he can abuse them in one day. He can put them through the abuse that a normal surfboard would have in a year's time probably.
Well, Tony, we were doing a show yesterday, and I was giving you my personal, respect towards you as a shaper and your accomplishments, and I asked the question of, how do you think Tony's board experience and shaping boards has helped influence the kite, and like the kite design? Because as you said, you can ride anything in kiteboarding. You could ride a McDonald's tray. Now let's take that out of the equation. Let's build something that is made for kiteboarding, like a board like this. Now, how do you think that all comes together? How do you think that these boards will be better for a kiteboarder out there than just the average board?
Well, I think John really hit it. Is like, you can really refine the shapes. So you can ride anything, but it comes down to refining the shapes to the point where you know exactly what they're designed for, and they're easy to ride. But they're also, if you want a board that's like Ben Wilson's Pro model, is designed pretty much to go up and surf the pocket in really good conditions, and it just rips. And you can really refine what the board is going to do in certain conditions. And then of course you have boards like the Slingshots that just bridge huge gaps, and ride small waves all the way to big. You can still ride in the pocket. They're just giant crowds. You find boards like that, and a lot of these boards are really neat because they do it all. They have such a big range of conditions they work in, and what's kind of nice is you can ride all the different boards, and you kind of weed out the ones as far as which ones perform best as far as for what conditions you're looking for.
Well, in saying that, what do you find? Do you find a board with more rocker, less rocker, more width, less width? Like, what are you finding is like kind of the sweet spot?
Well, it all comes down to personal preference, like what you want the board to, how you want to perform. If you want to have a short board feel, of course you're going to ride like 18 and a quarter, 18 and a half, less volume, shorter widths, or shorter lengths, and a lot more tail rocker usually to fit in the pocket, and more like in kiteboarding we've kind of stumbled onto a lot of radical concave compared to surfing, which gives you a lot of speed, and you can have pretty exaggerated rocker lines in the tail and still have a speed. So, and these are crossing over into surfing now as well. So, because Ben's been riding these boards, they were kind of designed for kiting, but now he's just paddle surfing them, and he's just freaking out on them. So there is a big crossover. And then you get to like the Doc Loush boards we have. They're kind of fun shapes. They're real wide tail. They're flatter rocker. They're kind of like almost fish dimensions, but they're just a little scaled down. They're really fun for planing at low speed, doing like in chop or groveling conditions where you just want to go out and just bash out little stuff, and they're always planing because they're just wide. So they work really good in fun, mushy surf and just conditions where you usually wouldn't have too much fun. You can go out and just terrorize on these little wide tail boards. So I guess it's just kind of bringing, there's a lot of different designs. They all work. It's just which ones do you want to, which ones are going to be fun in what condition. And then there's ones that, if you're just going to have one board, you want the biggest range. But if you want to get specialized and get like, a board with a wide tail, or you want a board to go out and, ride it at, Huntington or Seal Beach or whatever in a groveling onshore conditions and still have fun, you need a wide board with a wide tail. And so that's the best part about kiteboarding is you get to find that out really fast. And that's what John's kind of learning, that wow, you go out there and test boards and say, okay, this board works in these conditions really well, and this board, well, it's a good board, but it's a little too specialized. Or say like the other day, I've been riding one of the Pat O'Connell's Timmy Patterson little 5.9s, and the thing just rips. And one John's like, wow, you can ride that, and I'm like, yeah, that's what's great, you can ride anything. I could never paddle it. But the thing's just on crack, it's just so loose and flicky, and you can feel it. But most people in kiteboarding wouldn't even be able to handle it. They just got on a skateboard with loose trucks. So you kind of have to weed that one out of the category. But it's also, for the guy looking for it, there it is, And so I guess it's just wide open, and boards, of course, are personal preference. So.
Well, it's funny. You brought up Pat O'Connell, and I know this is totally irrelevant, but Pat O'Connell, I surfed against him in high school. He surfed 2 waves and broke his board in half, and he won the heat. NSSA, high school, yeah. I'm not kidding. The kid was on fire back then. But anyway, I think that's funny. But yeah, no, those boards, what you're showing is incredible. And actually, you talk about it, John. You say, well, I mean, you're a surfer. Like, when you first saw kiteboarding, you're probably like, what the heck is that shit? Like what has made it, like, besides Tony, what has, like, shown you the light that this is something legitimate that I want to put my name to?
The surfboard aspect of it, because before, this is kind of how naive a lot of surfers are, just like me, that a couple of years ago, I'd seen guys in the water when it gets windy, but they're on twin tips, and so it was hard to relate to. But when Tony's talking about riding surfboards, and he told me the first day I met him, he says you could ride Slater's board if you were under kite power. And so obviously right there, that sounds pretty attractive to me, to go ahead and ride a 6.0 or something shorter, and with his dimensions, and know what Slater's riding, know what these pros are riding. So I think the ability to ride normal surfboards is really what attracted me, obviously, because I wanted to get in the waves so badly and see what Tony's talking about.
The one thing I see these questions here, and people wonder about, surfing and why surfers don't cross over. And, I found kiteboarding way later in my life, and surfing is harder. Surfing, you got to pay your dues. You can't just in 3 years become a world champion. Like, surfers are people who do this sport for 10, 15 years. You can't fake surfing. There's some guys that are natural. There's some guys that aren't. Now, kiteboarding, as I tell my surfer friends, is like, I can be Kelly Slater on my kiteboard. I can do whatever I want to do, and it's more enjoyable. I get to ride more, and I feel just as badass as Kelly when probably Kelly's smacking the lip, you know. So to any surfer out there who might like be going, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna stick with my surfing. What would you tell them?
Oh, well, I think I'll answer it, and then John can give his stab from a surfer perspective. But for me, I think let me try to get my mind around this one, what the question was. But I think when you ride a board as a surfer, you're getting little clips of riding, and that's why it's so hard. You never get enough surfing. We just got back on an epic kiting surfing trip, and your stand-up time on a surfboard is so small. So you're really, and you're always left with wanting more and more and more. In kiting, you're riding all the time. You're just up riding, and of course you're hunting waves. You can chase them down. You can be in the right spot. You can do those big turns. So it's more like PlayStation. You're in PlayStation. You're in this fantasy world where you can do whatever you want. And surfing, the good side of it is you just never get. The learning curve's harder. You have to place yourself on the wave. Just to take off. You have to. The wave is so short. You got to make the best of it. And so you're just getting little clips. And then kiting, you're just basically riding the whole time and smashing stuff. So there's a lot of crossover in the feel if you ride with a surf style and ride strapless on a board that surfs. You're doing the same kind of turns, you get the same kind of feel, and you can ride a board like I say with paddle connell rides or these little boards. You can do snaps and do all this cool stuff with under kite power, and you get to tow yourself in, and you get to place yourself in the right part of the wave. Whereas surfing, like you said, is so hard. It takes years and years and years, and it's because you don't get the stand-up time. So it's such an accelerated curve on kiting. For surfers that are looking into it, I think in the future, like to be a pro, you're going to have to be a kiteboarder at some point to get more stand-up time to be better. To accelerate you're still getting the same look. So if you're riding all the time, look at Ben's surfing ability. From his kiting background. He was a good surfer, and he started kiting, but now he's doing both. But his surfing has definitely benefited. He's definitely at a pro level surfing level, and kiting I think has a lot to do with that. So that's my take on it.
No, I agree with Tony. It's only a matter of time before guys catch on, because it is kind of a little bit of a secret still, and guys are reluctant. Surfers we're kind of closed-minded. We don't want to think about anything other than what we're used to. But the guys, the Ryan Carlsons of the world, the guys that are trying to push rodeo flips and stuff, you just look at what guys are doing out here at the sandbar, and the guys that haven't been kiteboarding that long are already they're already inverted, they're already doing all kinds of trick stuff, and they're making it look easy. So as soon as these good surfers figure out that they can push the limits and spend a lot more time practicing, it's like freestyle motocross with a parachute. It's pretty amazing kind of deal. And as far as the guys that are not the pro level surfers, but guys like me, when am I going to go paddle into a 15-foot wave? And you see Ben, once he's dialed in, gosh, he just tows himself into almost anything, and it makes all these things that weren't doable, it makes them kind of attainable now with so you can figure out how to utilize the kite. So I think it's just a matter of time before good surfers figure it out, and they have to have one if you want to take surfing to another level.
Yeah, I agree. And the margin, what you said, Tony, the margin for error in surfing is so slight. I mean, how many times have you blown the perfect freaking wave and your blood boils because you dug rail on your dropping? I mean, I do it all the time. And when I said I'm a legend, that I can be Kelly Slater, I'm not. In my mind I am, and on a kite. Want to make that clear. And the other thing too about what you said, my very first job was at Wax on Surf Wax when I was 11 years old. They were behind my house, and my job, I scraped the damn wax off the floor. I'm not kidding. Ask my mother. And they used to give me shirts and all kinds of stuff. I was a teen rider, and the one shirt I remember was no kooks. They had this dude on a board, and it said no kooks. Surfers do not like to be kooks, and we've all worked very hard, and maybe we're above that kook status and we're not pros, but we don't want to go back and be kooks. And I think that is a huge thing with why surfers are so stubborn. We paid our dues, and when I came over to kiteboarding, man, it was like going back to square one. And now, like with the equipment and with everything that's out there, it's like if you are a surfer and you are not kiteboarding, you're missing out. As you said, it is the best kept secret, and you know, hey, it is what it is. Let them keep surfing, and let's keep that attitude out in the in the lineup. But the surfers who have crossed over, like the Josh Mulcoys, I mean, they look what they're doing for the sport. It's absolutely amazing. It just blows my mind. But anyway, that's my little. I never really get to talk about that because you know usually I'm talking to kiteboarders. So I do appreciate the chance that I get to talk with a surfer. You know, here's another question. How do Aviso boards differ from other boards on the market today?
As far as kiteboards go?
Yeah.
Well, or as far as surfboards go? Well, like I said earlier, we're after two things, obviously. We're heavy on performance and we're heavy on durability. We want the boards to have a dynamic flex. Since the bottom's not connected to the deck except for the rails, the board's doing all kinds of stuff and you know acting like it's got suspension on it. And to try to get it to flex the right way at the right time was the secret recipe. So the bottom's creating more concave through the apex of your turn, and the deck is storing energy and releasing energy at the right time. Gives the board a really unique feel. You know, whether you're surfing or whether you're using it with a kite and utilizing that flex as kind of like suspension. And then obviously Tony's big thing with me was we got to make these things bomber. They got to. They're going to be worth the money, you know, for the reasons of the track and having bitchin' shapes and having it look cool and whatever. But if it lasts, which our boards, you know, we started Aviso about 5 years ago, and some of those original boards, when you take the wax off them, they look brand new still. And so, for that reason, and for all the boards that I have that I've taken around the world and beat up, and I take the wax off them for my next trip, and they're still brand spanking new. For me, I'm going, oh wow, there's value there. Instead of, you know, my old boards, you're just burning through them about, you know, one every 3 months. It gets kind of old, especially, you know, at the price of boards, or you're making them yourself. Even if you're getting the bro deal on the things, you're burning through some cash. Whereas these boards, the price tag is double what, you know, your high-end Almeric is, but they're going to last, you know, 5 times or 10 times as long. So I think there's our value proposition in the durability factor of the boards.
Well, personally, I have a question for you because I know this is one of my biggest concerns in looking at a board that's made out of carbon is what's it like? Are they floatier? Are they stiffer? Are we going to feel that same polyester feel on a board? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not going to be the same polyester feel. It's going to take probably 3 waves to get used to it because you will feel the deck flexing like on your first couple waves, and after that you won't recognize it anymore until you go back to your old board. And then you won't like the old board because you know, the wood stringer, if oriented properly and it comes out of the right part of the tree and it's matched with a magic shape, that creates a magic board. But so many times there's something different about your old magic board that you can't get out of, even though someone's pulling it off a computer. There's something different in the way the wood stringer is set. It's a different stringer, different width. There's so many variables there that keep it from being the magic board. When you jump on a Aviso, just like wood, carbon fiber's got a really good coefficient of restoration, like in golf clubs or whatever, but wood's really springy like that, and some woods are different than others, and carbon fiber also has those same properties of being able to flex back and give you everything back that you put into it. So it's going to feel, the board will feel alive, is what everybody says when you first surf the board, that it feels alive. Now in kiting, it's a little bit different feel, you know, because you're not trying to use the wave's energy as much, or you're using your own energy to get everything out of the wave. Of course, you've got tons of horsepower, but you will feel something different. But mainly what people say is it's kind of addicting. You know, once you get something that kind of, you get on a wave and it sparks to life, you don't want to go back to your poly board.
You know, my biggest concern, I've tried surf tech boards, and I've never tried one of these, but like, they always feel pluggy. They always feel thick, and like when I surf them, they just don't for me because they're just like I just feel like I'm surfing on a bottle. You know, something so buoyant. And how does that differ? How does your construction differ, and how does it incorporate that natural feel that you're talking about?
Well, if you're talking about a normal surfboard, or a normal surfboard versus a surf tech kind of construction, you know, anybody who knows what a board should feel like know that, you know, unfortunately, surf tech's going to be on one end of the spectrum, and your polyboard's going to be on where you're used to, and Aviso is going to be on the other side of that. It's going to feel more lively and not going to feel dead in the water like a lot of good surfers complain about. But as far as how they paddle and how they float, they're going to float identical to a polyboard. It's just going to be a matter of volume, and there's no magic formula inside. There's no secret helium or anything that makes the board float better. It's going to float identical. They're two exact same shapes. You know, if I replicate one of Tony's designs, they float exactly the same, and they paddle slightly different for the same reason they surf different. Is they've got different flexural things going on inside the board, where the board's deck is absorbing some of the weight of your chest, and it's deflecting slightly, and it's kind of a cushion. And the bottom's also deflecting, straightening out the rocker line as you paddle. Or a normal polyboard that you won't even realize it, but it's flexing up to, like, you know, 1/4 of an inch just underneath the weight of your chest, even though a big portion of the board or your body's in the water and you're not as heavy once you're submerged. The boards are going to paddle just slightly better because of how they flex. The same reason that they ride so good.
Well, I think you just exposed a really cool point there, and I think that the average person who might kiteboard who's never had any experience surfing, they might not get that, and I think that's a pretty exciting thing to know that you guys, these boards are more reflective of a real surfboard than just some board that's been popped out of a freaking factory that's looks cool. Because there is a big difference, and I see a lot of companies coming to market with that stuff. And you know what? I'm not saying it's junk, but I do know the difference between a good magic board and a board that's just popped out in a production run. How do you think that Aviso boards fits in? Do you think that they're going to have a custom feel, and that people are really going to feel like they're riding a real surfboard?
For sure. They're not just a personal flotation device. You know, we've spent a ton of time and a ton of effort trying to get the boards to perform good, and I don't know. I think out of maybe 7,500 boards or whatever we've produced so far, we've had 3 guys that can't come to grips with the boards. So I mean, we're a pretty good hit rate, and a lot of guys who have our boards, they own multiple boards. Once they get on them, it's kind of like a little bit of crack. You get addicted to it, and you don't want to go back. But anyway, hooking you up with a board so you can try one, that's not going to be a big chore. So you'll know soon enough what they feel like. You just got to pick one out of our lineup and tell me what you think looks good to you, and I'll hook you up.
There's so many great things that I see that you guys have done, and number one, the movable track for your feet. I think that's genius. I think that the quality and the ability to not have pressure dents and those type of issues and delams that happen just in the natural life of a polyester board. I think that's awesome. How much are one of these things going to cost though?
For the kiteboards, they're going to start at about $12.49 for the Slingshots, and they go all the way up to close to $1,600, 15 something for like a 6'2" Cole. You know, the boards are priced by the inch because the carbon fiber is so expensive. You know, it's $35 a pound as opposed to, you know, fiberglass, which is like $3 a pound. So every inch is like another $25 or $28 in expense. But like I said before, I think even a normal board, they're going to last like 10 times as long, you know, if you take care of them, properly. If you run aground and start bouncing off rocks and stuff, that's a whole different issue. You know, guys run them over their cars accidentally, and I got to fix them. You know, crazy stuff happens in the real world, but the boards do last. On whole, their boards have been out there for a long time, and years now. And like I said, I haven't put a pressure ding in one of my boards, and I'm not a big stomper, but you'd think after all the abuse I've given them that there'd be some problems, but not one heel dent or not one dent from my knee duck diving. So that's rare in the surfing world.
You know, here's another question I have for you. I know for a fact I've seen surf that board snap like a freaking twig. Have you broken any of these boards? Have you seen any of them do that same thing where they just snap like a clean?
Yeah, we've had them break in various forms. Some of them have come, you know, they do come into two pieces, but you know, I'm talking about the ocean and Mother Nature's. You know, she can pack a real punch in certain type of waves, and it's almost hard to build a board that's going to be unbreakable, you know. So guys are taking them out at pipe, and we have had some boards breaking in two pieces, but they were all for good reasons. You know, the waves were solid and tons of power. So if you don't put yourself in a bad position, like I said, I've never broken one, and I've taken it to Indo and Fiji and shore, and I haven't had one board break, but I try to, you know, and try to pay attention to where I'm at and what I'm doing. So if they pay attention, the board's gonna, it could last a lifetime, which it may be avid, you know, it just people are gonna get their value out of them.
Oh man, smack about surf. I'm really talking what I've seen, and I'm not gonna. I like a board that feels. I have to paddle and feel like I'm paddling on a freaking board, and maybe I haven't written. I'm not gonna not tell the truth. What's the advantage of this type of to beef it up for?
Yeah, we kind of talked about the advantages of, but what we had to do for the kite boards was we've all kinds of areas. We did a bunch of different stuff, and the answer was much more. Finally figured out material out of the deck that we load underneath your feet. We ended up putting most of that material, and that made a little bit here and there and on the deck to get feel of the board. Part was because and the accelerated learning. Once Tony started entire laminate on every, you know, before we were ever trying to hit boards and the short boards. You know, I don't think we've broken the rails, you know, about, and so it saved me just by Tony going.
So Ryan, see, surfers are actually from kite.
Like, look at freaking. This was like people laugh. Like, this is where it's going. Kiting. It's like, and I'm stoked. What's going to grow kiteboarding? Surfers are surfers. On a computer, expect it to work. It takes experience. And I think that's one of the kiteboarding manufacturers. I'm sorry, that's the truth. And I know that I did it for a reason, because you know what? What you're doing right now. Hey man, I wish you, and I hope that you sell. I'll be able to make my living and living in kiteboarding. So, I'm going home and having a life. You know? I mean, I'll be honest. guy knows how to surf a kiteboard, you know? A kiteboard. I mean, I don't even, you know, Taylor, I would love for one day kiteboard, because it is, I'm just a silly little, I live in Texas. Between the growth of surfing.
What was that again, Ryan?
And the growth of kite.
Well, stage of which we're and you and your friends riding waves. You know, Oregon Coast, you can go all over the riding waves. You know, growth hit the point. It's crowded. You know, surfing is a big sport. At a nice rate, and hitting is just starting to hit in wave side. You know, I'm hoping, you know, to go places and ride good waves and not have anybody out there. If a surfer gets into kiteboarding, you know, I mean, fun or having a blast, and want to do great because it's fun to have guys in the water, but I think we are, with all the different surfing, really opened the door to kite. Skis they're burning fuel, they're smelly, they're loud, all kind of over with, and now it's legitimate. And the next step probably guys like, you know, in kite surfing, you know, just pushing it. You know, surfer can watch me now. They're actually, and it's gonna hit. We're gonna hit a. It's just gonna be mayhem.
Pose a very good point. You know, right? Because I can be a hero in my own mind, and you know, and you know, and most importantly, some of the attitude that I've really walked away from the surfing industry to get away from. I get burnt on surfing, and so you know, segment is growing. I mean, it used to be this little, and I don't see that anymore. Surfboards and $800 on a damn started on them, and I listened to me, and later, and this is great, and then we'll check out your product. So where can people?
It's going to be